for restoration and to become a real asset to the community. So that's another focus of our thinking and our planning. You mentioned the logging road trail just adjacent to the site. People are very interested to know how to connect to that, and so our goal is to ensure that this area is, again, completely linked to the fabric of the city. We looked at your transportation systems plan, the TSP, and I think many of you are aware of the auto road plan of the bridge over, which is no longer considered viable just financially, so we've let people know that. And that's actually, I think, a benefit to the individual side just because of the impact. But that is part of the discussion. So we're letting people know about other aspects of your city plan. Right now, we're going to use the city standards for streets, narrow neighborhood streets. There won't be big collectors and that sort of thing. And presently, in your comprehensive plan, there are 3 designations for housing densities, which are high, medium, and low density. So it does allow for a variety of housing types, and we've heard a lot of different opinions about that. But we are going to look at that as a baseline kind of starting point to make sure that we meet your density goals for the future. As far as potential funding mechanisms, you have successfully done so in the past on other projects. Your city engineer has let us know. So we're going to look at other things that have worked here and elsewhere, disbursement districts, SDC credits, system development charges, credits, capital improvement programs, local improvement districts, that kind of thing. So we're going to really provide you the full array of opportunities to ensure this can be successful. So again, where we are in the process, we're just wrapping up the initial discussions with folks. We're just starting into alternatives, and we'll be back with more briefings in the future.
Great. Not to necessarily call out certain property owners, but are we starting to see some kind of clustering occur in terms of property owners that are maybe adjacent to each other that are kind of coming together to say, yes, we're interested?
It seems that way. Okay. Yeah, no one's declared an allegiance or anything.
Sure.
But we hear similar things from certain owners. Some folks, as you know, have either purchased or presently or in the past for development. I mean, they're looking forward to this. There are a number of folks there that would just as soon they're not part of the conversation and would just like to live there, and that's fine too. And so we want to protect their interests as well.
The area there outlined in the red on the map is 66 acres.
Correct.
How much of that is going to be determined to be, or have we determined how much of that is buildable?
No, we're in the process.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Other questions, comments?
Sounds good.
Yep.
No, great.
So we'll be back.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
City Administrator's business and staff reports.
Yes, I want to share with you an award that the city received from the Chamber of Commerce. It's a Beautification Award 2014, City of Canby, for outstanding commitment to positive change in Canby. And it pictures First Avenue with the lights that are now a normal part of our First Avenue beautification program. But wanted to share that with you. I thought it was a pretty neat award and neat recognition to receive from the Chamber of Commerce. Trying to, I would also only quickly mention that and Matilda is here tonight too. She and city staff have a meeting in mid-May, as I recall, with the rail to talk about quiet zones in Canby. So that initiative and program is moving forward. We're excited about that and excited about the prospects. We think that we have a solution for the last major obstacle, and we're actually quite confident that we do. Now we just have to convince UP Railroad that we know what we're talking about and we should be in good shape. Would also like to note and ask you to place on your calendar calendars a work session on May 20th. We are going to be bringing to you some proposals and recommendations for a long-term funding strategy for our urban renewal budget, and asking you to consider moving in a slightly different direction relative to program priorities in our urban renewal programming process. We've got some what we think are exciting recommendations and some good opportunities that we hope will help define not only the budget year 2015-16, but operations and funding activities all the way out through 2020. That'll be May 20th. One last thing. The civic building is obviously the library is a big topic of conversation. A lot of people have asked where it's going to be placed in that big space. And so for those persons who are interested, there is a mark on the sidewalk on 2nd Avenue, and you can see about 45 feet just west of the theater a beginning mark, and if you walk about 240 feet to the west, you'll see an ending mark, and that's the approximate location of the civic building on that space. And anybody who's walked it has been amazed at how much space that's taking up. We're very excited about it. And that's all I have for now.
Great. Thank you, sir. Our second opportunity for citizen input of anything that you've heard this evening that you want to provide some input on. I did get another yellow card. Haley, did you want to come back and talk to us some more? I know she did.
I just wanted someone to mention that the first Budget Committee meeting is April 30th at 6 p.m. in this very room, and all citizens are welcome to join the Budget Committee that will deliberate the city's budget for the next fiscal year.
Great. Thank you. I know she wanted me to read it, but it's so much more fun. Staff doesn't get to come, on camera very often. So, any other citizen input this evening? Excellent. Action review.
You have adopted Resolution 1213 and Ordinance 1414. You've approved Ordinance 1415 to come up for second reading on May 6th.
Great. Joe, do you have an exec session this evening?
The city does not.
Fantastic.
City does not. Thanks, Joe.
No exec session. I will take a motion to adjourn this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Great. Anyone objecting to this motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned, but don't leave.
That's right.
There's another meeting right after it, starting here in like
Double
5
feature
seconds.
tonight.
A double feature. Thank you. So with that, good night, sort of, can be, and we're going to turn it over here to Tim and the Urban Renewal Agency.
All righty.
Gavel's yours if you need it,
Just in case.
just in case.
Our video technicians have asked that we not take a break and
Okay.
keep right on rolling. So good evening, Canby. Welcome to the Urban Renewal Agency special meeting of April 15th. Yes. Hope everyone had a good April 15th. 2015.
Tax day.
Tax day. And with the indulgence of the agency, we'll rely on the opening ceremonies that we had earlier. First up, we have any community announcements, Kim? In addition to what we did. Any citizen input? Anybody want to speak to anything not on the agenda tonight? Seeing none, we'll go to consent agenda.
Sir, I move that we approve the consent agenda, which include the minutes from the March 4th, 2015 Urban Renewal District Agency Special Meeting.
Did I hear a second?
Yep.
From Tracy. All righty. It's been moved by Vice Chair Hodson, seconded by Commissioner Hensley to accept the minutes of the March 4th, 2015 Urban Renewal District Agency Special Meeting. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 7-0. Tonight's big topic is discussion regarding the library civic building concepts and results from community meetings. We've had 4 community meetings to get public input on the design of our new civic center, and tonight our architects are going to be summarizing and presenting those to us. But before we get to that, there's a lot going on right now with the civic center. It's exciting times. We're in the process of getting ready to select a general contractor, which is this agency's third big action that we will take in order to really get this project rolling. And so I'm going to let Rick have the floor and update us on that.
Yes, thank you. It is a very, very big next step. It will complete our CMGC team. We did request proposals from all interested general contractors. We received 4 during the response period. And all 4 contractors are excellent contractors. We're very, very fortunate that we received the type of response that we did. We are scheduled. We've had one meeting with our interview group, and that occurred last night. We're scheduled to interview all 4 of the contractors on Friday morning. I would expect that the interview panel will arrive at a determination and recommendation of the top candidate, and we will, unlike we did on the architect's agreement, we're going to immediately initiate discussions and negotiations with this group so that we don't lose any more time in our construction schedule. We need to get some estimators on board, and we need to get the contractor on board. So the top candidate identified by this panel will immediately go into negotiations with. If we're successful, we'll be bringing to you on May 6th a contract for general contractor services, asking for your approval and authorization to execute that contract, and we will be in full swing with our full team. Very excited about this. As I said, this is a critical next step in the process, and it'll complete the team that will proceed through to the end of this project, we're hoping.
Thank you, Rick. And I just want to echo that. 4 very capable contractors. You just can't go wrong. They all could deliver. So it'll be a tough choice.
Yeah. I would add one other point, if I may, not directly relating to this, but relating to the site. If you have watched the last 2 days, you will have seen the removal of all of the trees and all of the shrubberies on the property that will be the site of the Civic Building. And I want to compliment and thank Jerry Nelzine and his public works staff for their excellent work. We'll have stump grinders out in the next couple days to remove any additional material on the site, and then we'll be scraping the site and building the pad that we'll be using for help me out. For staging of the project. And so we expect to have that pad, the excavation done, the pad built over the next couple weeks, and that will leave only the construction pad itself. All of the utilities companies are actively working with us, and we're feeling pretty good about the timing and schedule for utilities relocations as well.
Very good. Any questions for Rick before we move on?
No, thank you.
Everyone? Great. Rick, why don't you go ahead and introduce our friends from Scott Edwards Architects, and we'll go ahead.
And if you don't mind, I think I'll ask our project manager to step forward, Amanda Zeiber, to introduce our architect.
Thank you. I'll sit down for the microphone. This is an exciting project. I want to commend this architect team, design team, for the progress that they made in such a short period of time, and the way that they have been able to take all of the information that they've received and create a concept. I know that's what architects do, but it's still kind of amazing for me when we sit in a room with all these public meetings and we hear lots of windows, no windows, we love this, we hate this, and then they can find a way to create a really great concept and give us a starting point to move forward. So with that, I would like to introduce from Scott Edwards Architecture, Sid Scott and Brian Mars.
Great.
Good evening. My name is Sid Scott, principal of Scott Edwards Architecture, and delighted to be here tonight. This is Brian Mars, who will be playing the role of Vanna tonight. You're good. I took your line. Sorry. Will they lean up there so that folks in the audience can see?
There's no lip up there, really. Yeah.
How about this? That's working for me. Yeah.
Yep.
Great. So as Amanda was saying, I think it's been a really wonderful process. We often go through a much longer process, and I think this has been really wonderful in terms of the amount of momentum that has been generated. I think we've got a lot of good feedback. People have been very responsive, and I feel like in the end we're going to have a project that's all about Canby. So I just wanted to give you a very brief overview of the process we've been through. And I will skip many of the steps, but I'll just hit the highlights. We really started this process by touring the existing city offices, the offices that will be relocating to the Civic Center, to get a feel for what you currently have there. We toured 5 libraries and civic centers around this area. We then conducted our community meetings number 1 and 2, which was a great opportunity for us to get a chance to listen to the community. So we had images that we showed and got feedback from folks via little yellow and multicolored sticky notes in many different categories. And what Brian is holding here is the compilation of that first round of what we heard in terms of feedback from folks. And the first one is the first night, the second night, and then this is the combination. And what is great, it's really taking all those little sticky notes and looking at what were the themes that people were interested in, what did we hear the most consistent, and then we translate that into the size of the words in the diagram. So it's a very reflective of what the community was interested in and talking about. And I thought it was awesome that community was the biggest one. Mm-hmm. So we start with that, and then with the series of words, as we go through the design process, we'll go back and use that as a guide. So we'll check, how are we doing? Are we hitting on these? How many are we hitting on? So those are things that we'll report as we go along. But it gives us, I think, a nice kind of guiding principle. One of the things that we heard quite a bit, and just in terms of talking about the overall, like, what should the building be about, that sort of thing, was that it should be about Canby, but also that it should be part of the Canby fabric of downtown. And so we talked about what buildings represent that. And there was lots of ideas. So we took and photographed downtown Canby and looked at what are components of downtown Canby that could be translated into this building. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But it became, I think, a really interesting exercise for us to look at the history of Canby, buildings that aren't here anymore, what were the fabrics of those kind of buildings and the kind of look. So, and we'll talk again about that in a minute. We met with city staff after that and talked through programming for their space, so really talking about specifics, kinds of spaces, rooms, sizes, and those sorts of things, so that we could put together a program, space program, that talks about all the kind of spaces that they would need in this facility. So then we had community meeting number 3 and 4, where we presented 3 different options in terms of site planning and how the various components of the Civic Center could be placed on the site. And we also presented 3 options in terms of different kind of character for the building. And so we gathered feedback there, folks voted, and then community meeting number 5, which was last night, was a synthesis of what we heard into one concept. So what we've got tonight is a concept. The design will evolve from there, but it's really capturing both the concept in terms of site planning and kind of function, and then also a general kind of aesthetic for the building. So let's see, did I miss any steps? I'm sure I did. But that's where we are today. And so what we've got is the site plan is, and we looked at this essentially as 4 components. You've got it's the overall Civic Center, but you have the library component. We have a component that is the city council chambers / multi-purpose space. Thank you for that awesome idea. And the city offices, and then we've got an opportunity for a civic plaza. So we have those 4 components. So in terms of the site plan, you can see the Canby Cinema space, and then next to that we've got about a 45-foot wide space that's partly there due to a utility easement and partly due to providing the 7.5% of open space, green space that we need to. So the concept is the building would have a plaza space between the cinema and the new building. We would push it on the west end to the property line. which will set it up then for development in the future, a building being added onto that and give you that kind of fabric of downtown. The entry is located off of the plaza area. That's the gray area there, which we think is really going to be dynamic in terms of access to that plaza area and should give it a bigger feel than, what it would normally feel like if you were just going into a building. So that contains the elevator and stair area, which would take you upstairs. The multi-purpose / council chamber space is the gold colored right there. So that would be what you would see when you come into the building straight ahead. It also has access to the outside to the plaza space. And then the green and the kind of aqua color there is the library space. So the light green is the back of house area. So that's the service area where all the books come in and the staff works. There'll be a circulation point probably out towards the tip of that area, and then the rest is library area. Now, we have not got into library planning yet, and that's really the next step, but the idea that that would be where the library would be located, it's an awesome opportunity on the alley side that we can have a drive-up, drop-off back there. And also the alley presents an opportunity. There was a lot of discussion about parking and how close it is to the Civic Center. And you've got the large parking lot to the north of the cinemas there. And so having the entry on that side and also from the alley side seemed to make a lot of sense. On the second floor, city offices, also potential for some meeting space up there. That's the lighter orange color. And so those are our components as they sit on the site. Then looking at the exterior of the building, the thought was picking up on this idea of a really 20th century Canby, which is a lot of the buildings that people liked had that kind of character, whether it's Victorian or brick base to the building. Backstop is an example of a building with a very strong base to it. So the concept was to do that as part of a first floor feel, so it would have the similar kind of fabric as a lot of the other buildings do, and then do something that is more responsive to 21st century a library or a civic center design, which as the second floor would have more glass to it. So it makes a nice contrast. I think it's a response to the past, but also a nod to the future. The library space is on the left there. We would love to come up with a way to be able to provide additional light in that space. So we're looking at the idea of clear story or higher windows that will allow light to get deeper into the space, and that may be partially over the library. And then the city offices on the second floor. So that's the portion next to the plaza. And that, I think, also just by massing, having essentially a 1.5, then a 2-story, really brings you to that end and really says entry. So it's easy to find. So that is where we're at with the project, and that was what came out of the community involvement, and we're ready to move ahead based on what you think.
Questions?
Thoughts, questions?
Comments?
Brian,
I asked most of mine during the meetings.
Brian, great job being there.
Yes.
Yeah, you-
Good pointing.
Can you turn it though, like letters? Yeah, you can do that. Okay.
I just got to commend you guys because I know that we've got you guys on a tight timetable, and your turnaround times have been phenomenal. And
Appreciate that.
I like the look that we have here. That's the starting point, and I'm very pleased. It's great.
Could you tell the viewing public the square footage of the library versus the second-story city
Thank you
offices?
for asking that one. So the footprint, as we represent it right here, is about 25,000 square feet and about 10,000 square feet on the second floor. So we're looking in the 35,000 square foot range. Now, this will be all subject to, we will have a contractor on board shortly.
Very shortly.
And we're going to put them to work. You know, we've been on a fast pace. We expect they're going to be on that same pace. That actually should be one of our questions at the interview.
It will be. It is.
It
is. How fast can you go?
And so the library represents about 20,000 square feet, as shown here. But it would also have connection and access to that multi-purpose space, council chambers. So the idea, and it's 21st century planning, but make it as flexible and multi-purpose as we can, because we know that in 50 years, libraries will look different than they do today. We don't know what that's going to look like, but it's going to be different.
It's actually our intent to begin engaging the contractor in the discussions immediately following their selection and pending their approval. So we know it's critical to get the contractor involved and engaged, both in terms of design elements, cost control, and value engineering just as early in this process as we can. So we haven't even started schematic design. It's just the perfect opportunity.
I know that part of previous conversations on, I guess, the previous project was the speed at which we were going, and we seem to be moving, I think, faster, but it seemed to be much more controlled and detail oriented than I think before. And it seems to me that we're not. My mic going. Sorry. It seems to me that it's very much more controlled. I don't know how to describe that. We are moving very quickly, and
it's methodical.
It's very purposeful.
Very purposeful.
Well,
Yeah.
and I just want to make sure we maintain that deliberate and purposefulness.
Yeah, we defined a schedule just going into this prior to selecting actually the construction manager and the architects. We had sat down and defined a schedule that we thought was the best case scenario schedule, and we're within about 2 weeks of that now. Most people thought it was not achievable, but we were very fortunate to partner with SEAs, because they've met every one of our impossible deadlines, and some of them have, for all intents and purposes, been pretty impossible, but they've still delivered.
Right.
Anything
Get a
else?
break now.
Yeah, well, let's just sit down now.
Can you ask me about October, November?
Yeah.
We'll talk then.
Melissa, you're smiling?
Yes.
Feeling good? Very good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Sid. Thank you so much for the hard work.
very much.
Also,
Seeing you again.
big shout outs to Amanda for coordinating all the meetings and doing everything. And Amanda is doing a lot behind the scenes, pulling together all this general contractor evaluation, getting the RFPs out, spreadsheets for the committee, rubrics, keeping us all on task, and legal, so that we stay out of trouble. And also to Rick as well. He is doing an incredible amount behind the scenes to keep this project on task and on budget. And we just deeply appreciate both of you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, and Melissa, same for you. Thank you so much for your passion and your drive and working with the community groups. We can't thank you enough. So it's good times, exciting times. All right. Well, Rick and Kim, that concludes our official agenda. Do you have anything else for tonight?
I do not.
Very good. I need a motion.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Motion is to what?
To adjourn. A non-debatable motion.
Non-debatable motion.
All right. So it's been moved by Vice Chair Hudson, seconded by Commissioner Height, that we adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good night, Canby. Thank you.
Scott?
Scott.